That is a very ironic opening in this game. Nothing like a classic video, classic cutscene to start off a game review. This is Rob Shack. We're doing the Midnight Club series eventually. But this is a walkthrough of. Well, it's not even a walkthrough. I'm just going to review the game at this point. So, it's just great. It's a great time. I'm just going to go through this whole game, talk about everything I like about it, everything I don't like about it. And you can see all of it from the fact that I played through this whole game before I made this review. So it's all on the channel. You can see everything you want to see in more detail, but I'm going to give just a review of the game here in this video. So thank y'all for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share. Help me get to 1,000 subs. So if you're new to this genre, this is an old genre. This game came out in 2000. As of the time of this recording this, it's over 20 years old. That's gross to think about. But you start out the game just like, actually this isn't how you technically start the game out, but you start the game as a taxi cab driver racing against the most obnoxious person ever, which is Emil, who I'm trying to just destroy in this little brief video here. But you start out as a cab driver. That's all the story you're gonna get. That's the entire backstory of the game. Is you are a taxi cab driver and Emil challenges you to a race, and that's it. And you have the easiest opening of the game ever, where you just chase Emil through the streets and get to a place where you race him, and then you take these little races out for a ride. You win people's cars, then you go and cruise in the city. Once you beat Emil in your first race, I think you actually unlock his car, if I'm not mistaken. You actually win his first car, which is this like blatant ripoff of a Chevrolet Impala that I'm racing against in this little intro video here. But yeah, you literally race against Emil, win his car, then you go out and cruise. There's a whole bunch of other, well, my whole bunch, I mean, there's two other drivers that just randomly spawn in because Emil mentions there's a Midnight Club underground racing thing. So then you end up racing Kiko and, what's the other guy's name? Jeff? I don't remember the other guy's name right now. But you just do these races, and you race against them and win their cars. First, the hardest part of this game is literally just driving to the location. All the drivers are just cruising around in the city, and you just drive around, try to catch up to them. The most difficult part of the races, which is just freaking unlocking their cars, just racing against their cars and trying to get to the location where they are, is impossible. Such a huge challenge. I that's literally the hardest part of the game, is doing that. But yeah, you just cruise around the city, you drive around, you run into people, you basically try to get there, and then you race the person in with a whole bunch of other homeboys. That's the term they use. You race against them all with a bunch of homeboys. That race unlocks just a phone call where you can call them, you get their number, and you can call them, and then you win their car in a one-on-one duel. And from there, you is there anything else that you do after that with that? Yeah, then you just rinse and repeat for each person. Each of the 3 drivers in New York have 3 cars. There's the Crucero, the whatever the truck's name is, and then whatever the hatchback his name is. I don't remember their names. I probably should have looked that up, but it's more fun just to whatever. Y'all know what I'm talking about. There's those the 3 cars, Emil's car, Jeff's car, that's his name, and Kiko's car. You just drive around, you know, as you beat them and take their cars, and they respawn on the map, cruising around in their newer car. Then you race them again, rinse and repeat, do it for each car. Then after you do that, then the champ pops up, and his name is Kareem. He's awesome, but he's even more impossible to beat. And you do the same exact thing in New York, or in London. When you unlock London, after you beat the champ in New York, you unlock London, and Kareem is there with 2 other people. And I think there's the same situation. They just inexplicably say, there's new people here, and you've got to race them. And they don't really give any context for that, and it's pretty great. Now, if the hardest part of this game, which is objectively true, is the cruising part, The second hardest part of the game is easily when you race against the main homeboy with his posse. Also, these races are actually pretty challenging because of the fact that there's a whole bunch of people. They all go in different directions when you start a course. Then you have to figure out the fastest way to get from each of the points. The races are honestly pretty great in this game. They're pretty straightforward, but it definitely takes some getting used to if you're playing through this game again as a older person, which is usually what happens with people when they're playing through this game. They come back and kind of take a step down memory lane here, which is what I did. If you start out, like, it gets pretty challenging at the beginning of this game. It's difficult to kind of like try to figure out the course, since the course is usually a wide open space where you have a lot of choices about how you're going to do anything in these games. That's what makes this game kind of awesome, is that you do have a lot of freedom as the player to figure out the best way to get to a city and to get through all of the objectives. You have to get through them usually in a certain order that's advised, but you can literally do whatever you want. It's not guaranteed that you have to figure out anything. So I'm doing this race right here. This is the Zender one, but it's just a joke. But like, yeah, it's just interesting to see how they did this. The city is very in detail, even though it's a little bit bland because of the fact that it's from 2000, but everything's here. All the big buildings are here. All the big city locations are here. All the fun things to walk around and see when you go to New York are here, but it's from 2000, obviously. Looks very different now. But it's just very interesting to see how they made this game. The cruise option is super interesting, engaging, fun, but very challenging because you don't know where the car driver is going to take it. You have no idea where they're going to bring you to. So you have to just, and that with that you can't. It's hard to. You can restart them, but they will usually lose you because they will crash into something and break their chances of getting through it quickly. And as a result of that, then you just have to start over and re-catch them again. And once you re-catch them, then you can sort of figure that out again. But at least with the homeboy races, even though these are very challenging as well, you definitely get the opportunity to restart it over and over and over again. You can. It's not hard to do that. It's not. I mean, it's very advised, obviously, to restart this as much as possible until you get it figured out. The hardest part is by far the cruise, but second hardest easily is doing the homeboy races. At least with these, you totally can restart a million times, and it's also pretty fun, especially this one that I'm doing now. This is one of my favorite ones where they all just we have to jump onto that freaking boat, which is a disaster for the AI to figure out. They just can't do it. So it's pretty great. But the AI on the homeboy races always go in different directions. They always panic, and everybody has their own preset route that they go on. I usually just follow the homeboy, the main person. So whoever's the person that challenged you, they usually have the fastest route. But that's not even a guarantee. That doesn't always happen. So homeboy races are super fun. Cruise races are not that fun and impossible. Homeboy races are hard, but they at least get figured out. You can at least get the hang of it as you go through, because eventually you will come out on top. And the AI usually don't figure it out all the time. But it's pretty great. It's a lot of fun to do the homeboy races. After you win the homeboy race, then you get the regular duel race, where those are pretty easy. I just showed you the one with Emil. Those are even more simple because you only have one car, so you just have to beat them. So you just follow them around and do your thing, and it's pretty simple. The duels are not that hard. It's the Jones. That's what this truck is called. This thing is hilarious. Yeah, there's not a lot of customization in this game too, by the way. I'll talk about that in a second. So the duels are probably the easiest part of the game, and they give you the most reward, which is hilarious. They put the easiest challenge in the place where you get the biggest prize, and there's the biggest incentive to do the duels because you unlock new cars. I mean, I'm sure you can just keep the taxi forever and just whatever, but like that wouldn't be very fun. But the duels, once you win a duel, you call them, then you take the duel. You don't have to find them again for the duel, so at least they knew that cruising was terrible. They had the decency to know that, so then they don't make you re-find them to duel them. You just call them on the phone. I'm glad they came up with that at least, because yeah, cruising is the worst part for sure. Absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, so dueling is super easy. then you win the duel. You take their car. You hit that trademark unlock Midnight Club sound where it makes a sound where it's like a really like bad sounding key being unlocked. So, whoa. Yeah, the physics in this game are hysterical, by the way. We'll talk about that in a second. But, yeah, it's just great to play through this game. It's a very easy game, very quick game. It doesn't take a long time to get through it. The cars are obviously not real, but they're heavily incentivized by cars that are actually existing nowadays, or classics, you know, obviously, depending on what one you're looking at here. But, pretty easy to replay through this game. I mean, what I'm glad about is that they have it where if you do just butcher races like I can do here in this video, it's pretty easy just to restart it again and then notice ways that the AI drive and then just adjust accordingly. So this game is super fun in that it's very arcadey, very replayable. It doesn't take a long time. You could really beat this whole game in like probably 2 days. I mean, you could. It takes probably like 8 hours, I would say, to beat the entire game, but it's not hard. It's just the biggest challenge in the game is the physics and the mechanics of the game, which I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, it's super fun, super arcadey, super replayable. Duels are easy. They win you the cars. Then after you win all 3 of the duels, where you win every single one of their cars, the last one usually has NOS, which is kind of cool. Then you unlock the champion of that city. So you have one. There's a champion obviously in New York, which is Kareem. A champion in London, who's I think Daryl, and he's barely understandable. It's hilarious the stereotype that they do with Daryl. He speaks the most broken English ever. Then you fight. After you beat Daryl, you have the world champion who is, I think actually a girl, but she is in the Zender. Once you do all those, then you win the main story of the game, and so it's pretty amazing because it doesn't take very long to do that. But the thing that makes this game pretty insanely awesome is that there are bonus missions, but we'll get to that in a second. So there's extra cars, extra things to unlock in this game, and it's pretty incredible. Once you do the main series of the game, you unlock the waypoint and head-to-head bonus missions. So for head-to-head, there's both cities. You can unlock the police. Oh yeah, there's police in this game. It doesn't really matter. They suck. So then you can unlock all the police cars, and you can unlock special bonus waypoint things to unlock other cars, which is actually pretty sick. So when you notice, if you go through the game on the arcade mode, there's a whole bunch of other options for cars, which is pretty cool. That's something that you don't see until you're this far into the game. But when you look at the game at first, there's the taxi cab with you can't unlock any of the other cars. Then you have all the main series cars, but after the Zender, these are all new. So when you go to the arcade mode, yeah, you have the Karumas, you have the Manhattan stuff, the London stuff, and the police cars, which is pretty sick. So you can unlock all this extra stuff, and this is what makes this game so much fun and such a great idea for the game. Well, actually, there's more things. I'm going to still get to those in a second. But the fact that all you do in this game, and this is just super fun, is it's super straightforward to play through the arcade mode, or through the main series of the game. You just beat each of the cars and take their car. You just cruise, chase them, beat them with the homeboys, then duel them and win. That's it. You just do that 9 times in whatchamacallit, 9 times in each city, and then you're done. But then there's this whole extra stuff on the side where you actually get to unlock all the bonus stuff in the game. Each of the and I'll talk about that stuff in a second too. Okay, so each of the head-to-head races wins you some car. They very much hint at what each car gets you, but also you can tell when you do the head-to-head races what car you're going to unlock, because that's the only car driving around on the map. So when you, for example, try to unlock the police cars, all the cars on the map are police cars. Every single car on the map is police. So they really want you to know what you're going to unlock. If you're going to unlock the Meter Maid in New York, that car gets unlocked. When you start to unlock that car, you'll notice that when you do that head-to-head race, or that waypoint race, every car on the map is a Meter Maid. That's how they let you know. So it's pretty fun to do all those things. They're very well. The police ones are very challenging, but the other ones are pretty easy. Especially because at that point you'll have most likely already finished the rest of the game. Hopefully, at that point you will. But it's just really cool that they came up with all this extra stuff on the side. There's so much extra stuff, and there's still more that I'm gonna talk about, but I'm trying to keep this as organized as possible. So the extra content is what makes this game to me makes it a step up from most games that came out during this time. Most games that came out at this time, there was just a career mode that you did, and you would unlock everything in the career mode, and then you'd end the game and it'd be over. I find that simple, but a little bit repetitive. What's cool about this game is you have that same bread and butter thing, although it's a little bit different because you duel the guy. I think that's really interesting. They didn't have that before. But they also had these head-to-head races. I mean, the fact that they even thought about doing this, where they're like, you know what we need to do is make it so that you can unlock certain cars on the map. I think that's super, super, super creative that they thought of this, and it works very, very well in this game. You can literally unlock not every car, but like they chose which ones they wanted you to unlock. Basically, they unlocked the police cars, and then like a sort of an iconic car for each, 3 iconic cars from each region, which I think is really cool. Of course, they added the bus. I think that's hysterical that they threw the bus in this game as a drivable car with its terrible, terrible stats. That's just hilarious. And of course, yeah, when you unlock the bus, there's only buses everywhere. That's the only car you are racing against. So they definitely, I mean, they really want you to know what you're getting yourself into when you start unlocking things. They're like, here we're going to be racing only buses. I hope you are sick of it. This is all you're going to see for this whole round. And you're like, okay. So it's pretty great. But I think that's what puts this game in a leg up above most games that came out during this time, was that you can actually unlock cars that are pedestrian cars, or the police, on the side of the road. Like, I think Need for Speed had the police in their game, but the unlocking of like meter maids and buses, that is pretty awesome. I think that's a super unique thing that they did in this game. And those races are interesting. They give you a heads up of what car you're going to race because the person's picture is sitting right there. So when you try to unlock the bus, you obviously race people that are out of place. You race the London people, which is really interesting. So, yeah. And then there's ice cream. Yeah, there's the ice cream car, meter maid. Then the one where you just drive around the loop, which is pretty awesome as well. These are all very interesting races. I like that another thing they did in this game was they give you races where you get to max out speed. Like, I've been doing max speed tests with all the cars in the game, but they also, just to kind of feed that for everybody, because everyone wants to go fast in these games, they want to show off how their speed looks in their game. They have multiple races in the game where you just drive around the outskirts of New York, which is like a pretty awesome idea that they even did that in the first place. So I'm pretty proud of them for Rockstar back in the day. I think it's Rockstar technically. It was like Angel Studios, but I think they ended up becoming Rockstar or whatever. I was really proud of them for coming up with all these new ways to kind of innovate this game. I think that's super cool that they did anything like this. Because, yeah, it's pretty sick. You can actually unlock all these cool cars, and they're not good. You don't use the meter maid to win a race in arcade mode. You can't actually even do that. But you can use the meter maid in the races that you did do to unlock stuff in the single player, because all those races are all unlocked. So it's just cool that they like took the extra time and be like, no, we want people to play this game for more than 2 seconds. So let's make it where you actually can unlock extra stuff on the side. And it works, honestly, really, really well. You know, unlocking buses is pretty funny. Having them be the main enemy, AI NPC car that's just driving around is just buses everywhere. So many buses is fantastic. Also, the AI are hilarious in how they will just run into stuff. And the AI cars will try to run into you. Like, if you're in front of an AI car, they will try to run into you. It's pretty insane. It's fantastic. It's super hilarious that they even did stuff like that they just kind of were like, this is kind of a cool mechanic. Let's just throw it in the game and see how that goes with everybody. It's pretty insane and pretty fun. People have a good time playing through this game. It's not a hard game to play through either. So you just get to unlock super fun things, and They also added the damage model for the cars, so when you damage, if an AI car gets damaged out, you can actually see them damage out and not finish a race, which I think is really cool. I think that's super interesting that they even did stuff like that. Again, all things that didn't really happen before this game, at least not very much, where you could actually destroy an AI car. Like, they don't explode or anything, but you can total AI cars in the game. In theory, if everybody gets totaled, you can just be driving a crappy car against the best cars in the game and be like, I'm just gonna chill in the back and you guys are all gonna crash and burn and I'm just gonna sit here and it's gonna be fine. So like, you can do that. You shouldn't do that because you should obviously play the game, but it's just funny how they set that up they set it up very well. They really did. So, and like, the AI are hilarious. The enemy AI too. They will NOS. They'll use their nitro if they have it. That's pretty cool. They will hand brake on corners. They handle themselves very well. Honestly, they're aggressive. They will try to run you off the road. It's very fun to see how they are super intense and they will try to destroy you as often as they can. Hilarious thing about this game is, and this, I guess I don't want to. No, I won't transition yet to the bad stuff yet. I guess I can kind of spice it in. A thing that's hilarious about this game is that the mechanics are pretty broken. Cars will flip, cars will explode, not explode, but cars will just glitch out, cars will hit buses, and it's not a very clean impact when they do that. When cars hit other cars in this game, they just like go crazy. Especially if you're in this tunnel right here. If you do anything in this tunnel in particular, it's just like a disaster, which is already kind of happening here. But very bouncy in this tunnel. So it's just very interesting to see how the physics of this game is pretty hilarious. I think it's based on I don't remember the game, Midtown Racer or something like that. This like, the engine of this game is based on another game, but I don't remember what it's called. Midtown Madness or something like that. It's got a name and it's pretty interesting. But just all over the place in this race, just flipping all over the place. But yeah, so you can damage the cars. The physics is hysterical. Yeah, you can flip over pretty easily in this game if you hit any sort. I mean, you've already seen it as I've been just driving around and doing this game normally. You can flip over pretty easy in this game, especially if your car is like a little bit bigger, like a top heavy, like the Jones or any truck in this game. Any bigger car will just flip over at the first sign of any sort of danger at all. It's just like, just forget it, you know? So that stuff is hilarious. In a way it's bad, but in a way it's charming because this game is very arcadey, very, like, you could see this. If Cruis'n World wasn't a thing, this would be a thing. This would be the new Cruis'n World. Like, you would see this game in arcades all over the place, probably, because this game has such an arcadey feel. It's very, very 2000s, and that's what makes it very, you know, just endearing in a way. But, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, the game really does handle itself well. You know, races are challenging, but not impossible. You can usually beat most races in 1 to 2 tries, as I've been just kind of going through the game. The background here, you can kind of see that there's ways that the game kind of is replayable in that it's not impossible to figure out how to do this thing. It's not impossible to win races. If you're driving an underpowered car, it might be a challenge. It might take you a few tries, but the AI tend to make mistakes, and this is one of those great games where there is rubber banding, I think, technically, maybe, but it's not very strong, and the AI cars will run into stuff, and you can see it. Like, even if they're way in front of you, if they hit something, you can see their arrow go freaking nuts, and then it like actually still makes sense. Like, cars can impact other cars in this game. When you cruise around, you can see other cars hit other cars. Like, NPC cars can hit other cars, and crazy stuff happens when that happens too. Like, you'll be driving around and watch as a car just clips through a wall there. That was kind of interesting. But you can just watch as the AI cars, the NPCs, will even hit stuff and mess themselves up and spin around. Like, you'll be just driving on the highway and all of a sudden you'll see a car with its headlights facing you, even though you're not. It's driving the wrong side of the road. So, like, cars impact other cars in this game, and I think that's what makes this game super interesting, is that even when someone's really far in front of you, they can mess up like crazy, as we're seeing the Amada do right now. That dude just spun around, his arrow went completely crazy, and that happens because they hit something and it messed them up. And so, like, the fact that the AI cars actually mess up. You know how like in Mario Kart they didn't mess up, like they would just always have a perfect race unless they were right next to you, then they might hit something and get hit by a banana or whatever. This game, like, stuff just hits stuff and you don't even have to see it. Cars can get totaled. That car went flying off into the river, like that happens in this game. So this game definitely was like innovative in that you can actually like see cars make mistakes. I think that stuff is really interesting. um, I kind of want to see these cars get totaled in this little clip here. I'm hoping that happens. But yeah, it's just very fun. Oh yeah, I'm playing the game live while I do this interview too. Or not interview, what am I talking about? Review. It's not an interview. But yeah, it's just cool to see them make mistakes, crash, hit each other, hit you. They will push you out of the way. They will try to pit maneuver you. And that's just like basic. I mean, it feels like AI isn't that hard. Like, it's hard. I can't imagine it. But like, it seems like AI in recent games are not even as good as a game like Midnight Club. Like, AI like are stupid in more recent games. But in this game, it's like they will just destroy you. They have no mercy when they're fighting you. I think that's super interesting. And they're aggressive. And especially on the like police race, if you let the police cars get near you on that police race, they just try to obliterate you with all that they can. They just try to destroy you. So it's very interesting. I think the AI do a great job of simulating being on Xbox Live or being on the PlayStation Network, even though this game came out years before that happened. They make the AI feel as human as possible. I think that's just a really, really cool thing they did. And they did a great job with the AI in this game. Again, cruising is super fun. Oh my gosh, I'm just gonna lose again to these people. Try not to lose to these people, but that dude just rammed me pretty hard. Okay. Yeah, see, aggressive. They don't mess around. They will try to ruin your race, and they do not feel bad about it. So, yeah, cruising is really hard. Cruising is freaking impossible, really. If we're gonna be honest, you can't tell where they're going. You just lose all the time. It takes a lot of trial and error. Then you have racing against homeboys like this. Challenging, but not impossible. It's the fact that there's so many other cars on the road makes it difficult. But then also, the duels are simple. I mean, let's be honest, the duels are really easy. So, and then the physics is hilarious. Physics is broken in this game, but endearing. As I've said before, it's pretty funny that you can see the AI get flipped over, messed up, stuff like that. But it works. Also, the AI is great in this game. Very intense, very intelligent, very agonizing to race against. They will destroy you. They do not care. So, also a cool thing that I'm going to mention in this game, and I'm still into all the glaring bad parts yet, so I'll get to that at the end of the video. I start with the good. A really cool thing that they did in this game, and this is, again, super underrated, and something that modern games don't really do, because most games offer a cruise. If you're doing an open world game like this, most of these games offer some sort of cruise mode or drive around mode, but it's just a get from here to there to do a race. Most modern games, that's kind of the whole point of open world, is just like, oh, we like rendered this big world that's everyone likes it, yay, or whatever. So in this game, though, they again were super innovative. They were innovative with a lot of other things too, but this game has places for you to go on the cruise, and you can look around for cars on the map. So there are little pink little columns that you can drive to, and they unlock cars. I've obviously unlocked everything in the game now, so you're not gonna hear the noise. But in this game, you can literally cruise, which is probably the most boring part of the game. But you have to do it if you want to unlock everything in the game, because there are little secret spots on every map on London and New York where you go in. I'm gonna try to do this live here. It's challenging. But you can get into certain walls and into secret places and unlock other cars. In New York, you unlock the Super Taxi and the Marauder. And in London, you unlock the Karuma Fasudos, that trio of cars as well. So, like, here's one right here. So, these are awesome. The fact that they even have stuff like this is incredible. That they even took the time to like render this little area for people to drive into and just happen upon finding it is so cool. Midnight Club was such an innovative game for its time because you have good AI, you have hilarious but still good physics, you have a simple arcade style racer with a twist where you dual drivers and unlock their cars that way. You don't just race them simply and beat them. And then you also have the cruise mode exploration. You can literally explore the map and find extra cars. I think that's so creative that they even thought of something like that. Like, why? I don't know who was thinking of that, but that is such a great idea that they were like, you know what we need to do is like make it worth it to cruise. Like this game encourages you literally to play every single mode of the game because every single mode gets you something new. The arcade mode obviously gets you the most things, but if you do cruise, you unlock new cars. If you do head-to-head, you unlock the police cars. If you do the waypoint ones, you also unlock new cars. You unlock arcadey cars that you would never use in real life. You would never drive a meter maid. You would never drive a bus unless you do that for your life, which is awesome. But I think it's crazy that they unlock these little spots. There's these little nooks and crannies. The fact that you can drive up on rooftops in certain cities. Actually, in all the cities, both places, you can just drive around on the roofs. That is so unique and very well done in this game. And the fact that they literally encourage you to play through every single game mode, every single option, that is something that is not done recently. Like, they don't do stuff like that in new games. They just be like, well, we'll throw all the modes in, but like, we don't care if you play through them or not, like whatever. This game literally encourages you to do the most boring mode, which is cruise. Cruise is probably the most boring because you're not racing anything, you're just driving around. The fact that you can drive around the city and look for these little pink things and then unlock secret cars is so cool that they even did stuff like that. Like, I think that's so interesting. And again, what an innovation. Like, I mean, it's not like mind-boggling, but like the fact that they came up with finding, they were like, you know what we're gonna do is we're gonna put these little pink things all over the map and people are gonna find them and it's gonna be awesome. Like, people are gonna find all these things and drive around on rooftops and they're gonna be like, they're gonna look up cheats and how to find stuff. Like, again, super cool. Like, the fact that they even did that is so impressive. They were super innovative, and I really respect that they came up with these little places where they're like, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna find all these little secret tunnels and secret places, and we're gonna just have all these little hidden areas for the player to just roam around. And if somebody's bored in this game and they've beaten it and they're just like, I just like to drive around. I mean, imagine the first person who found one of these little secret things. They were probably freaking out. They were like, wait, I just found, what is this pink thing? And then they drive through it and they hear that little unlock noise they hear whenever they unlock a new car on the single player, and they're like, shoot, I think I just unlocked something. What did I go unlock? And then they go check in the arcade mode and find that they unlocked a Super Taxi, a Marauder, or the whole lineup of Karumas, which are incredibly fast but very weak cars. I mean, how awesome is that? So I think they did a really great job with Midnight Club, Street Racing. These games are super fun, and it's such a shame that they kind of don't really make them anymore. They're like, it was a powerful series when it was out, but yeah, they definitely don't really do them anymore. Midnight Club has really fallen away now, but when they were in their prime, they were sick. So this game is, they really set the bar high with Midnight Club 1. Like, I mean, Street Racing, it's a great game. A lot of mechanics from this game carry over into newer games. So, like, you know, you got a good formula. If it's not broken, don't try to fix it. They don't really change that idea of racing and taking other people's cars. I mean, it's very Gran Turismo-esque, but it's just a little bit, it's not about money, which is what Gran Turismo's thing is. It's just about exploration and racing cars, and they're not really real. It's like kind of a tuner scene, which is why you can see why in later Midnight Club games they made it more of a tuner scene. This is basically tuners without tuners. Like, you're driving modified versions of cars. That's basically it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not super tuner yet, but they get there. Oh, they get there. So this game is just incredible. We'll talk about some of the bad stuff now, because there are some big ones, and I don't really have gameplay for this, so I'll just kind of keep driving around as I talk about this stuff. This game has some bugs. This game has glitches. This game will ruin you if you do certain things, and you can ruin your whole experience and literally have to start the game over. There are game-breaking glitches in Midnight Club Street Racing. Game-breaking glitches. It's a huge problem, and there's no way to fix it. There's nothing you can do about that. So what I'm talking about is, and most of you know about this by now, it's the New York City glitch. If you do certain things, and I don't quite know what it is, so people can kind of comment here and tell me what the glitch is. From what I understand, if you switched your car too many times, and if you switch your car in a certain way, when Kareem is supposed to pop up, he doesn't pop up anymore. The game literally breaks, and once you race and beat all the London or New York City cars, you don't advance anymore. I actually have a save file, which I can show you all in this video. I'll show you near the end of it. There is a save file of me having a game-breaking situation here. I'll actually go and do it now. The game broke, and I was unable to continue. I had to start the game over again. It was very irritating, and it really ruined everything for me. I was very frustrated because I could not advance anymore. So this is the game. You'll see it. I'm gonna hit cruise, and Kareem is not here, and there are no other AIs to race. The game is over. It's it. You win without winning, and it's really, really frustrating. And you have to start over. And I'm pretty sure this glitch also happens in New York, but I don't know I didn't do it. I didn't trigger it by accident, 'cause I think I was super freaked out about this, so I didn't do it like that. This game does have game-breaking glitches, and that is a huge, huge problem. You can literally ruin your experience in this game because of the fact that you can just create a playthrough, and here it is, driving around in a Piranha, New York. This is a current playthrough I have of the game. Kareem is not here. Kareem will never spawn in. It never will happen. Every other car is gone. When you call your people, they all say they're done. They all have no comment. Nobody has anything to say to you. Oh, that dude's name is Larry. Okay, it doesn't matter. But this is it. This is the worst. Game-breaking glitches are worse than anything else and are worth having a long discussion about. A game-breaking glitch. Clearly, they did not play test the entire game, because if they had, they would have realized that if you switch cars a certain way, you will break the game. The game ends. Kareem does not spawn, and the game is completely unplayable. It is broken, and you have to start over. And then what I did when I started over was I just basically cleaned out each of the AIs individually. That was the only way to ensure that I didn't do it. So I just didn't change cars literally the whole time. I would always end the race. If I won the new car, I would go cruise first, then I would do change car. I didn't change cars until I was in cruise mode. And I also didn't race any other drivers. I always stuck with racing one dude until they were gone. I played it super safe because I don't fully know what happens with that glitch. But it is game breaking. It literally ruins the game, and you have to start a new playthrough. Fortunately, this game is not a very long game to play through, but it is very jarring when that happens. The game literally is unplayable, and it breaks, and you cannot do anything about it. You are stuck, and you have to just quit the game. Like, there's nothing you can do except for start over. And I think this also happens in London, which is really irritating because London is even further into the game. If you are at the London champion and your game breaks and you are unable to continue, that is really irritating. And you are done with the game. You have nothing you can do. The glitch is so rampant that if you search Midnight Club glitch, it's a lot of people have talked about it, and there is no solution to fixing it apart from starting the game over. That is the definition, straight up trademark game-breaking glitch. It is terrible, and it is so infuriating when it happens. It does happen. It happened to me. It happens to a lot of people. I made a video on it. You can go find the video. I literally talked about this and was like, am I done? Is it over? And someone commented and was like, yep, you have to start over. There is nothing you can do now, and I was very sad about it. So that is why I've been playing through this game on a different setting because of the fact that I had to start over again.
It's really, really sad when it does this. And it really does ruin the game, and it is so infuriating. So hopefully that doesn't happen to people, but I'm just going to warn you, if you go back and play through this game, if you've forgotten about this glitch because it's so horrendous, be very careful with how you do your switches. I don't know what it is really, but be very, very careful because you can end up ruining your day and ruining however long it took for you to get to that place. Especially if you like took a long time to beat some car or something. Like, oh my gosh, it is a nightmare when that happens. So, yeah. All that to say,
Also, some minorly funny glitches is it's pretty easy to fall through the floor on this map. This is not a terrible thing. It's not a horrible situation, but it's pretty funny. You can literally, yeah, you can literally fall through the floor in New York when you go through tunnels. You can just clip through the floor and fall into water. Also, yeah, damaging out in this game is hilarious. You can literally damage out your car while you're in races, and I mean, I know I said that earlier, but it is something that is kind of a downside because you can be driving around and there's four homeboys all trying to destroy you, and one of them can total themselves just killing you, essentially. They don't do that, but they can. They can all unify and slam into you and knock you into traffic, and if you get damaged out, you have to restart the race. The only time damaging out is like way more detrimental to success is in that exact situation right there. You have to be very careful if you're driving a weak car in a race like this, for example. Like I'm driving, if I total my car, I lose. If anyone totals their car, they literally show up as a DNF, did not finish, at the bottom. They automatically get last unless other people total themselves too, and then it goes whoever totaled themselves first is the one that's in last, and it just kind of updates like that. So totaling out is pretty unfortunate. The fact that the AI can do it too is cool, but the fact that sometimes you're racing against 4, 5 cars and they can all just destroy you and run into you and ruin your race and ruin everything, that can happen, and then you can be the one that has to be. You have to start over. You have to restart the race. Fortunately, again, you can restart every race pretty easily. It's not hard. There's no penalty, nothing like that. So it's not like the end of the world, but it is a little bit of a bummer when you have 4 cars trying to run into you and push you out of the way and knock you into traffic, and you can be dueling one of the homeboys and then another one comes up and slams into you and you get really damaged. You can, I mean, the later cars in the game don't have a lot of life. They can get totaled out pretty easily because that was Rockstar's way of kind of balancing these sickly fast cars that are insane. Like this Zender is so fast, but that's why they don't let you use the police car, because the police cars, the London police car in particular, is like literally maxed out stats in every way. So I mean, might as well. But like, it is just a little bit of a bummer. Again, that's not a huge downside. And yeah, you can fall through the floor, and if you fall through the floor on a main race, that immediately counts as a totaled out, and you have to start over. So stuff like that is a little bit of a problem, but it's not the end of the world. That stuff isn't as bad as the game breakings. The game breaking, any game that has a game breaking glitch needs to be ranted about. The game breaking glitch has to be ranted. I don't care how fun the game is. If you have a game breaking glitch in your game, you have to rant about that. Like, there's nothing you can say about that. See, this is what I'm talking about with AI slamming you into the road. They're very aggressive. It's pretty awesome. But apart from that, I think there's no other really negative things in this game. I mean, the big one is the game breaking glitch and the physics. You can really, yeah, you can get bullied and flipped over like I just was there. I mean, that's kind of a, you can see that physics is not, it's not perfect. It's not terrible, but yeah, the fact that like you can get pit maneuvered so easily, and it feels like the AI don't get pit maneuvered as easily. Like if you're hitting them, they can just be fine. But the second they nick you, you're just like done, and you have to spin around and you hit stuff, and there's always a car. Traffic does seem to kind of blindly come around corners a lot of the time. Like you will just be driving around, and then I mean, I'm sure it's come up in this game. Oh, and cars flip over a lot too. That's a big one. Cars do flip over a lot as I am my memory is jogged as I'm playing through the game just for fun now. Yes, you can get flipped over pretty easily, and cars with low handling basically swerve back and forth. Like you never, it's very hard to straighten out a car with low handling. It basically just like refuses to stay straight. It's really irritating because the PlayStation's PlayStation's handling is a little bit finicky in the olden games. It's a lot more smooth now, but like in this game, oh yeah, it's noticeable. And yeah, obviously cars with low handling are pretty hard to control, and cars with low damage, damage out. Like right here. So you can see it. It happens a lot. But the races themselves are hard, but they're not too hard. Cruising is fun because of unlocking things, but stupid because you have to chase the car. I'm glad they kind of got rid of stuff like that in later games and they made it easier if it's in the game, but they definitely worked on the like cruise, how to challenge races. I think in Midnight Club 2 they literally don't even have cruising because everybody was like so furious about how hard this was, and everybody hated it and complained, and it was because it's terrible. The cruising is hard in this game. Cruising and catching up to cars is like freaking awful, but it's worth it to unlock the game and progress. So you kind of have to do it to deal with it, but it's possible. It is doable. The car doesn't just immediately respawn at their old place. They still are driving around, so you can just catch up to them again and then lead them back. They'll lead you still to the place. So it's still doable. It's just irritating, to say the least. Also, Kareem, why are you driving in the other direction? What is that? But I'm very far ahead though this time, so hopefully I don't mess this up this time. So, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. Game breaking glitch is horrendous and you just have to be very careful with how you play through this game because, again, I don't really know what causes it, but there are game breaking glitches in this game and they ruin your day. They are very discouraging to encounter, but they do happen. Beating the game is super fun, super satisfying. Unlocking all the bonus content is really great as well, and it's a lot of fun. I was originally going to edit this video a lot more, but it's pretty easy to do it. So yeah, there's the I just beat the main person again. So her name is Anika. She is the final person that you unlock, and then you beat the entire game. Each of those trophies, one is the New York one is the London one, and the last one is the world. So that's it. Thank y'all again. Y'all are awesome. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Give me comments about Midnight Club, what y'all think about it. Help me get to 1,000 subs.